Hello and welcome to Group Chat. I am Justin Verrier, and joining me, a couple of guys who leaked some bogus officiating stats just before Game 7. Rob Mahoney, Big Waz. What's up, boys?
Look, the proof is in the tape. I don't think we even need to justify it here. I think if you look at the evidence, you'll come around to our way of thinking, Justin.
What loser behavior is what I have to say. As the game didn't even need to play. After that, I think it was over.
That was what did it?
I missed this officiating thing. What happened? Can you bring me up to speed?
This podcast is just going to be just aggregating Twitter for you guys. Basically, Woj had a report, I think about 2 hours before today's Game 7 between the Celtics and the Sixers, basically stating that there were some missed calls in Game 6 that the Sixers were upset about. Coincidentally, Doc Rivers then did his pregame press conference shortly after and then addressed that report. So one might believe that maybe this was put into the ether in order for the refs to be aware of some of these missed calls in Game 7.
I would say, look, if you're going to play that game, if you're gonna do a little leak about the officiating, if you want to get that out there, I don't know that 2 hours is enough. You got to put it in their heads the night before, make them sleep on it, make them really, really agonize with what they've done, because clearly, the officiating did not swing Philly's way as intended. Although I don't know that they did a lot of help, the Sixers. They didn't really do themselves a lot of help in trying to draw those calls in the first place in Game 7.
Yeah, I think that one bricked like a Joel Embiid air ball. It's tough. It's tough for the Sixers. Watching them implode today in exactly the way that anybody who's been watching this team for years would have predicted was so satisfying. Joel Embiid was horrific. He was below his MVP standard. This is about as embarrassing as Dirk going out in the first round against We Believe. He should pack it up, mail it to Jokic's crib immediately, because one guy has been kicking everybody's ass in the playoffs, and the other guy is Joel freaking Embiid. This was horrific. 3 air balls today, guys. 5 of 18. Boston going to the lane with impunity. Just horrible.
So Embiid 5 for 18, Harden 3 for 11. I'm surprised. Like I know we could ding Joel, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But I thought Harden was the more egregious performance in this one. Celtics 112, Sixers 88. By the way, I mean, at a certain point, and I told Waz this before he got on here, Rob, like Embiid was being guarded by 3, sometimes 4 guys on pretty much every possession if he wasn't already being stonewalled by Al Horford.
But don't we expect some of this of James Harden in this moment? And I think what we were hoping for, at least what I was hoping for, unlike you, Waz, I take no joy in the Sixers' failings. I would have loved to see Embiid climb this particular mountain and have a statement moment for his playoff career. And it not only did it not turn out to be that, look, I think the Celtics did smart things defensively, as you're alluding to, Justin, to throw Embiid off his game. I think Horford in particular guards Embiid as well as any human being on the planet. I didn't see a single thing that they threw his way that he shouldn't have been able to overcome. And I know he's hurt, but this was as big a moment as Joel has had in his playoff career, and I think he absolutely blew it. Just completely did not look like himself whatsoever on either end of the court. And in particular, let's even take away the offense. Defensively, Jason Tatum was going right at him in the first half, driving to the rim, challenging him on his own turf, beating him there. And then in the second half, bring him out to the perimeter where the Sixers were so toast, they had to start switching Embiid out on Tatum. And my God, how many threes did Tatum hit with Embiid right in his face in this game? Just got absolutely wrecked to the point that there's no defending Joel's performance. I think with Harden, at least we can say the long memory of history will tell you this is kind of who James Harden is in some of these games. I think a lot of people expected better of Joel.
So because the bar is so absolutely low for James Harden, not only in general and in particular this season, but just in the playoffs, in a big game moment, that is why we're dinging Joel more, because we expect James Harden to be absolutely atrocious, which he was in this game.
Justin, this is the show that coined the Redeemer. Okay, he had
TM.
He had the good game in game 1, and I was like, "Don't worry, James Harden will redeem my take that he's a god-awful playoff performer, and he always does this. He just never is there in big moments for his team." I mean, I know we got to get to Boston at some point, but you got to give it up to Jason Tatum. One of his worst games ever. Okay, he follows it up by breaking a freaking Game 7 record. Okay, we're not asking James Harden to come out and drop 50. We're not saying that. But my goodness, man, be an all-star performer. Be a max contract guy. Be better than freaking Tyrese Maxey. It's just, it's unfathomable that Philly could just flame out this way and get 30-pieced in a deciding game, man.
I mean, forget Maxey. Like, be better than Malcolm Brogdon, right? Like, be better than the 8th best Celtic in this game. I think for as great as Tatum was, they got some like across the board contributions on the Boston side that were impactful. And on Philly's side, obviously we start with the stars first and foremost, but you just get like kind of a no-show game for DeAnthony Melton in a lot of ways. Like, some of these guys who've been really important for them in the playoffs really didn't quite have it. You know, PJ Tucker's been a really important player. He hit some shots. I think he did kind of enough at the start of this game to challenge at least the way that Boston was trying to defend him. But if you're going to get this level of performance from Embiid and this level of performance from Harden, and basically no one else on the roster steps up, guess what? You lose by almost 30 points.
And worst of all, Rob and Justin, can't blame this on the white man like you did the MVP.
Jesus Christ.
I'm gonna sidestep that one like a Jason Tatum attack on Embiid to the rim. But Rob, I mean, I see your point here. And Harden was, to his credit, making the right plays early on in that first quarter, hitting PJ Tucker wide the fuck open. He had an ocean of space in front of him. And to Tucker's credit, he hit those shots. I joked on Twitter, this was starting to look like a Grant Williams Game 7 performance from last year for PJ Tucker. Unfortunately, Harden not even looking at the rim most of the time just ultimately made this just completely non-starter for Philly. I mean, the one memory I have of him attacking the rim is when he flailed so dramatically that he nailed Jaylen Brown in the face in order to get a flagrant. And just, I mean, it's on the one hand, it is easy just to blame this on Harden because he has been the punching bag for this team for an entire season. And before that, even last year's postseason. But a lot of it just started from there. You could just see the Celtics just assuming that Harden wasn't going to get to the rim or do much else, and thus it just made them so much easier to guard.
Yeah, that's where even the stuff you're alluding to at the beginning of the game, where he's technically making the right play, passing to PJ Tucker, James Harden's the kind of player who in those moments makes you wonder, is this a guy who's playing chess and thinking, oh, I have to set up PJ Tucker so we can play the Celtics out of this defensive alignment? Or is it a guy who just doesn't want to or can't believe that he can actually get to the rim against this team? And both things can kind of be true, right? I think he, in some cases, is looking to play a more three-dimensional game in terms of his playmaking, but also just doesn't really trust where he is as a shooter at this point or a scorer at this point in ways that really drag the Sixers down. And to be fair to him, I think you could say the same of Embiid. Like, I know that he was facing a lot of pressure, but show me a couple of possessions in the second half where he even got into the paint, got into the post, got anywhere near the vicinity of the basket. Some of that is a bigger structural playmaking problem with what was happening with Philly at that point in time. But look, like, if you're the MVP, you have to be able to pull this stuff off. You have to be able to pull out these kinds of moments and these kinds of performances, or at the bare minimum, not be a reason your team lost.
Yeah, I thought, honestly, in the first half, the Celtics were doing them a favor by playing just a conventional pick and roll coverage where you just expect Marcus Smart to sort of recover off of the screen. And then they were sending help at James Harden late. And the guy's one of the best passes we've ever seen. You can say what you want about James Harden. This is a guy who reads the floor as well as anybody. And then in the second half, they switched it up and said, fuck that. We're just going to switch this. And when you do give it to Joel, we're going to send help on him, the guy who's the turnover machine, the guy who historically has had trouble sort of passing out of double teams and finding the right guy. And they did that, and you know, predictably they crushed him with that. And I mean, I don't know what else to say about Philly, man. I thought Tobias Harris tried his heart out. He's being faced with guarding two of the best wings in the NBA every single possession, and then trying to goose his offense. They don't run anything for him. He's just sort of trying to find his offense within the flow of the game. Maxi's a really young guy, still on a rookie deal. You can't really expect this guy to be some sort of savior. And yeah, man, you would think that the two guys that make all the all-star teams, that win the MVPs, that, chirping in the media all the time about a lack of respect or appreciation for what they do, you would hope that you could lean on them in a game 7, and it just wasn't the case. Boston was just flat out way better than these dudes.